Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience presented by DraftKings 2021 Fantasy Football Rankings Update, Injury News, and all of the preseason reports that you need super quick style. I don't want to take up too much of your time today. I just want to let you know what's happening in the news, how the rankings have adjusted, and you can go on your merry way, and you can do some help for Mayo Media Network by subscribing to the channel right now, smashing the like button to the video, and you tell me where you would rank Michael Pittman at wide receiver in half-point PPR scoring going into drafts, because we do have some Carson Wentz news, we have some Quentin Nelson news, and it's positive for the time being. I don't know how much I believe some of the Wentz news, but hey, it sounds pretty good so far. Also, I released a huge show on Monday morning where I walk through all of the tools from runthesims.com with my partner, Justin Freeman. If you go to runthesims.com/Mayo right now, you'll get a discount on the premium tools, but there's a ton of free tools up there as well. If you want to go search play level data, easy to sort data, market share data, all that stuff is free in our advanced stats hub. Or if you just want to build out your own rankings with projections, that's also free up at runthesims.com right now. I highly recommend you go check out that video right after you watch this, of course, and you can get a better explanation with visuals of what's going on there to see if it might be for you. Plus, if you don't like the premium tools after you get them, you do have 7 days to cancel for a full money-back guarantee. That's how much we stand by our product. We don't anticipate anyone is going to do it, but hey, if it's not for you, that's okay. So runthesims.com/Mayo to get your hands on the Showdown Optimizer, the Classic Slate Optimizer, all of the betting tools, and the big thing around it, the single game simulations. You can simulate any game you want up to 10,000 times and see your range of outcomes with all of the custom inputs that you get in. You can find all of my rankings down in the description right now. And if you're more of an audio man or audio lady, then subscribe to the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast. Also, fantasy football picks and bets from recapping the entire week 2 preseason game by game. If there's something you really want to hear about, is up now on the fantasy football picks and bets audio feed and on Mayo Media Network. Plus, they also cover the prize picks and DraftKings picks for Monday Night Football. So there's still time to go check that out right now. Let's get into the good stuff. Let's crank up the techno music because we're going to be speeding at light speed right now. Okay, let's go. We have Quentin Nelson returning to practice. Apparently he's going to be okay for week 1. So that's great news for the Colts offensive line. Great news for Jonathan Taylor. I'm still not super bullish on Jonathan Taylor as an elite option. He's a part of that tier 2 running back core for me behind luminaries such as Nick Chubb, Najee Harris, and Austin Eckler, and Saquon Barkley. He's at the bottom of that tier, closer to Joe Mixon for me than he is someone like Nick Chubb. I just think that there's still going to be enough of a split back there. And, well, Carson Wentz has returned to practice following foot surgery, doing one-on-one drills. It's an issue right now because I don't know how he's going to recover from any of this. It's all like hype. Oh, one-on-one drills. He's doing 7-on-7 drills on Tuesday. So if he can go back-to-back days, that's positive news, obviously, for Carson Wentz and his prospects of starting week 1, although that wasn't a part of his timeline to begin with. And it does worry me a little bit if they rush him back too quickly, especially with Easton Stick being like, okay, maybe we can start him for a week and see how it goes. But I worry about re-aggravation. I worry how he's going to look later on in the week. So I'm still not willing to bump Wentz back up to where I had him prior to the injury, just because I want to wait and see right now. Not many people are doing drafts on Monday nights or Tuesday nights, but that's something that I have on my radar. I have not moved Michael Pittman, but I didn't have him down as far once Wentz got hurt either. He was still in the low 40s for me. I believe number 41 in my wide receiver rankings. If Wentz is fully healthy, I'll probably bump him back up to like the high 30s, but it's still a wait and see approach for me with this Colts offense. I think that's too much of the techno. I think it's like bothering people. Let's turn that down and off. Great news on that front. Saquon Barkley is going to join the team this week, hopefully in inter-squad games, because he has not practiced with the inter-squad at all in the joint practice sessions that we've been seeing. So eventually we'd like to see him on the field. Like, there is still doubt that his week 1 might not go off as planned. So that's a bit worrisome for a guy that he slipped out of the first round now in some drafts. In a lot of drafts, he's going like pick 9, 10, or 11. Some drafts, you can catch him at the very beginning of the second round. I did a full draft recap recap on Sunday. That's up on both the pod feed and the video network right now. You can click on the draft results if you want to go see it. It was a best ball, so it's not like apples to apples, but it's like apples to, well, it's like Gala apples to Macintosh apples. Like, it's basically the same thing, but you can hear me talk through where I made my mistakes, where players were going in that draft, just to give you a sense of what more recent drafts are doing right now, and maybe compare it to some of the mocks that you've been doing, or if you're heading into your draft, it gives you a sense of what guys that people are starting to reach for in drafts. I still got Barkley where I got him. I haven't made substantial moves to my rankings as of right now. Just, I don't want to overreact to everything, because I feel like I did that partially with Myles Gaskin last week, although the rankings didn't reflect that. I moved him down 2 spots because I felt like he was eventually going to go and get his run. This week, everyone's freaking out about Ja'Marr Chase, and I probably have Ja'Marr Chase ranked higher than anyone around in the rankings. I might have to dial that back a little bit, but it's week 2 of the preseason. The guy hasn't played in 2 years. Yeah, it's going to take him a little bit to catch up to NFL speed, and I don't know if that's going to translate into the season, but he's ran, he's seen 10 targets, or he's ran like 10 routes in the preseason. He's dropped like 4 balls. He's getting a ton of targets. And that was the whole point of Ja'Marr Chase, is that I think he's going to be the alpha in this offense. But if you disagree with me on that front, we're into a situation where either T. Higgins or Tyler Boyd is going to be a supreme value when things come along. Frankly, it's probably Tyler Boyd, only because he's being drafted way later than both Chase and both Higgins right now. I'm getting there, but I have not broken in my faith in Ja'Marr Chase that he's going to be a severely impactful fantasy player for you this season. So I still have him at wide receiver, I believe, number 15, with, I think, the potential for more than that. So that's what I'm looking for Ja'Marr Chase right now. Just a quick tidbit about Jordan Palmer for the Los Angeles Chargers. It really looks like he's past Guyton and the other jabronis they have on the receiving core to be the wide receiver 3, which means he's really the wide receiver 2, because Mike Williams will get hurt trying to make like some outrageous catch in week 1 or week 2 or something like that. So in the back end of your leagues, along with Amon-Ra St. Brown, Nico Collins, all of these guys that could be thrust into a larger role than even some of the higher end rookies that we've seen, just based on sheer volume and how that offense works with the Chargers. Jordan Palmer, someone to think about in the later rounds. He might not be viable for a few weeks, but maybe he's one to add to your watch list, because he could be like the waiver wire pickup of like week 4 or something like that. He has that sort of potential within that offense if he truly is the number 3, and that's how he's been running so far throughout the course of the preseason. A.J. Brown has an knee injury, but he is expected to be ready for week 1, but monitor that status. I don't have him quite as high as I think some other people. Still a top 10 receiver, but I believe he is number 10 in my wide receiver ranking. Just, this knee injury, it's not helping matters. That's not why I had him down there to begin with. Just the overall efficiency with Arthur Smith. Now that Arthur Smith isn't there, is that going to continue? Is Julio Jones going to take too much of a market share away? I think that it's not going to be that big of a deal, but in terms of receivers that can be the number 1 receiver, I just don't think that A.J. Brown is on that list. Will he be a wide receiver 1? Yes, I think so. That's how I have him ranked. However, that overall upside and week-to-week consistency, where he's not just a volume monster, he does so much on efficiency and big plays that I do think that there's some downside for him on a week-to-week basis. Now, he's consistently going to be good, but not as consistent as all the other guys that I have ranked above him at the moment. Guys like Allen Robinson or Terry McLaurin. Scoring McLaurin! Those guys I like a lot, not a lot better, but I would take them ahead of A.J. Brown in drafts when it came around. There is a lingering criminal case for Deshaun Watson. I'm sure you're probably aware of this at the moment. However, because that is still pending, it does seem, Charles Robinson reported this from Yahoo, that it looks like he's not going to end up on the commissioner's exemption list. And so as long as this proceeding is going on, he might be able to play for the Texans. I actually moved him up in my rankings. He's still, don't draft him as your quarterback, but draft him as your backup quarterback. And if by week 1 he's not ready to go for the Texans, you can probably end up dropping him because you'll have a better sense of that. It's sort of been my wait and see approach with Watson right now, but it's opening the door that he could end up being the starting quarterback for the Texans, which makes him a great value to win that division for one thing. Although if the proceedings speed up too much, the rug gets pulled out underneath of him and he ends up on the commissioner's exempt list in week 7. He's not playing for the rest of the season. So there's always that to factor in as well. well. However, Brandon Cooks continues to be one of my favorite values on the board at receiver. He's going around pick like 80, pick 90. You can take him ahead of that. He's fine. He's better than like Odell Beckham, put it that way. Love Brandon Cooks this season, regardless of who's playing quarterback. Nico Collins is dealing with muscle tension right now. He's been sitting out practice. Keep an eye on him. As I mentioned, he is one of my favorite later round picks at wide receiver if you're taking some high upside guys who are rookies who could potentially just mine a lot of volume in an offense just because there are no bodies with the Texans. Like Anthony Miller still, I have no idea how long he's going to be out for, but he's going to miss significant time because he has that separated shoulder right now. Not a quick one to come back from. And in the running back, that awful Mark Ingram, my most hated player of all time, is like starting for the Texans now. That's one significant change I've made to my rankings. I still prefer Phillip Lindsay in that backfield. I have him ranked at number 39 at running back because I don't know how valuable these running backs are going to be anyway, but like David Johnson's like on the outs with the Texans right now. It's kind of weird to see. Maybe he is so solidified that he doesn't need any preseason run, but even his comments, the Texans comments, what we're seeing based on the playing time on the field, just I had to drop him down to like number 60 in the running back rankings to keep Phillip Lindsay up where he is at the moment. Raymond Calais, he was like a punt returner and a backup running back on the Rams. He's likely out for the year right now, so that still solidifies Darrell Henderson because they haven't picked up anyone else. He's still a nice value in drafts, coming off at like running back 16 at the moment. That's a good price for him, but he's in that mix with like the Montgomerys and Carsons and guys like that. Truly, he is based on the volume he could see. Xavier Jones still appears to be the handcuff that you want at the moment. That can always change on a moment's notice, so pay attention to Rams training camp. New England, this one's a bit of a weird one. Cam is going to miss 5 days of practice because he got approved to go out of state for some sort of recovery. He was getting COVID tested, but the COVID test didn't fall in line with what the NFL and NFLPA had collectively bargained. So he has to isolate for 5 days before returning to Patriots training camp. By all accounts, he did everything properly, and they just didn't give him the right information in order to actually how to proceed with these tests. So just more reps for Mac Jones. Mac Jones looked good on the weekend. Cam actually looked pretty good as well, but that's just a lot of run with the first team. Not on the first team right now. N'Keal Harry is going to be out probably at least 4 weeks with the shoulder injury sustained over the weekend. So good news for Jacoby Myers. Keep bumping him up the board just a little bit. And if Jonnu and Henry can both be healthy, I mean, you're not drafting a backup tight end. If you want to gamble on one of them, I suppose that's not the end of the world. The Dolphins, Tua time. Look pretty good, huh? Yeah, nice poise in the pocket, was making his reads quickly, mobility, just a little flick, awesome accuracy. Frankly, Tua looked really good, and that was without most of the starters over. Like Parker didn't play, Preston Williams didn't play, Will Fuller didn't play. It was just Gesicki and Waddle who ended up getting banged up but then coming back in. Watch him, though, on their injury report over the next few days. So the way that that's shaking out right now is Lynn Bowden is going to be out a couple weeks. So like the running back wide receiver hybrid, just kick him to the curb. Will Fuller is still dealing with a lower body injury, which is what they call like injuries they don't want to disclose in hockey, and now they're doing that with Will Fuller. He wasn't going to play week 1 anyway because of suspension, so week 2, he's on track to do that. Preston Williams should be ready for week 1 and step into that Fuller spot. I still like it to go Waddle, Fuller, Parker in terms of the rankings for the wide receivers on Miami. However, Parker is going way after everyone else. And if he truly is healthy, and it looks like he's working his way back, he could be a very nice value. We know how good he can be when he is the primary focal point of this offense. The problem is I do think that's probably going to be Waddle. In the backfield, what we saw was a lot of run for Myles Gaskin with the ones until Salvon Ahmed came in, and the snap share ended up being 18-14, Gaskin over Ahmed. So when we look at some over-unders for the season and where you want to rank Gaskin, I think he's going to be the most valuable, and he scored the touchdowns. I'm not really concerned about that in preseason play. It's about how much you're on the field, how much opportunity that you are getting, and it does seem like he's going to be in a split backfield where Ahmed might handle some between the tackles duty. You might see him near the goal line, and Gaskin will play a lot of like first and third downs, maybe be the primary third down back and be utilized out of the backfield a lot while getting carries on top of it. That makes him a viable fantasy running back, but probably as like a high-end 3 or a flex play rather than a low-end 2. That can always change, but that's just the way that it's really shaping up right now. We didn't really get much Malcolm Brown at all, and I think that we will. It's not necessarily that it'll be a 3-headed backfield in Miami, but it's going to be a situation where you're going to be mad a lot of the time with Myles Gaskin. That's just how that's the sense that I'm getting with how that they're using him right now in that backfield with the rotation with all of the other backs. Baltimore just continues to be hurt the entire time. So Marquise Brown still not back at practice. Sammy Watkins not practicing. Rashad Bateman has been cleared to run routes after his core muscle surgery, but that's still going to be like mid-September, late September. He seems like he's ahead of schedule, but he's a rookie, and you don't want to push these things at the same time. Nick Boyle, I didn't even know he was hurt, but apparently he might miss week 1 as well. Like, Mark Andrews is the healthiest guy on the team, and he fucking passed out at practice last week due to dehydration. He's apparently going to be fine. I continue to like Mark Andrews as my tight end 4 more than Kyle Pitts, and just with a dearth of options in the passing game for the Ravens. Maybe just run the ball every single time. That's something that they can do very effectively. But as long as Andrews stops dropping every pass his way, I think he's going to be fine. So just keep an eye on him, make sure that the dehydration thing is behind him, and just lock and load with some Mark Andrews. Minnesota news, we got Judge Ito Smith signs as a backup. Big Kansas City news, not like big. Tyreek Hill didn't play on Friday, but he should work out on Monday. He seems fine, just some rest to make sure that he's healthy for week 1. Clyde Edwards-Helaire missed the game with an ankle injury. He was a part of the Monday walkthrough for the Chiefs. Darrell Williams was not, because he left the game with a possible concussion. He's being evaluated at the moment. That could be a boost up for Jerick McKinnon in that backfield as a receiving back, as a third down back, to maybe spell Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the moment. Because, again, it's not necessarily like the Miami situation, but if Darrell Williams is healthy, like, we've seen him get extended run. That's sort of like the, you hold your breath and do the Charles Nelson Riley, when it comes to drafting Clyde Edwards-Helaire this season. Austin Blythe, the Kansas City center, is probably going to miss 3 weeks. He could be ready for week 1, but we saw what a disaster their offensive line could be. Although my guy from Quebec, is back. So that should only solidify their offensive line based on what we saw in the Super Bowl. But it's not the strongest unit in the NFL. So, losing your center, I mean, that's sort of like losing your middle linebacker. But it's losing the quarterback of your offensive line. Losing your center is never really a great thing. And while you can shift some guys in, like a right tackle to left tackle, that's not enviable. But you can shift a left tackle to right tackle, no problem. Mix and match guards. Center is a totally different beast. Like, that's cutting the head off the snake right away. Like, he controls all of the audibles on the offensive line. He's the one who gets all the information from the quarterback to make sure everyone is in unison. Like, a great center is very invaluable to an offensive line, and if he's not back, it's a bit tricky. Trey Sermon didn't play on the weekend with an ankle injury, but it doesn't seem to be like super severe, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. What else we got from San Francisco? They basically sat everyone outside of their receivers, so not much ado in the San Francisco side of things. I really think that Trey Lance is going to start week 1, and that's going to be good news for everyone on that team, especially the running backs, because with his mobility, it's just going to open up running lanes. So I like Mostert better than I like Sermon, but they're probably going to be viable at different points throughout the season. In Denver, Melvin Gordon continues to sit with his groin injury. No word when he's going to be back. Javonte Williams looked like okay in week 2. Didn't look as good as he looked in week 1, and it looks like Teddy B might be starting to get like the lean there. I have Teddy B over Drew Lock in my quarterback rankings right now. Lock looked okay. Teddy B looked better. And if they actually want to win games this season, I do think that Teddy Bridgewater is the option they could go. Fantasy-wise, it's probably Drew Lock that we want for Jerry Jeudy and Noah Fant. Sutton also did not play, so he's still up in the air for week 1. Continue to monitor his status at the moment. Just with Locke, he's going to go throw pick sixes the other way, bomb it down the field, show no regard, where Teddy's going to be like efficient with the ball and not turn it over a bunch. At least that's what we expect from someone like Teddy Bridgewater to make you better on the field. Oh, sorry, I misspoke earlier. It was Myles Gaskin 19 snaps to Ahmed's 13 in that game. Big Ben! Looked pretty good, gotta say. But he also looked good for like 12 games last season, too. I have no worries about the Steelers' offense. I think all 3 receivers are draftable. I love Deontay Johnson way more. I know people are coming around to Claypool. I would have him second, but I have Deontay Johnson way above. And I do have Najee Harris, number 9, in my overall top 150 right now. You can check that in the description. The Jets. So the win total show is coming soon, next Monday, by the way, for the NFC at least. And then we're going to have some Jets talk with Gus. He's over the moon about the best rated passer from the weekend, Zach Wilson. Sack Shilson. Looking good in the preseason. But Bryce Petty once threw 3 touchdowns as well for the Jets in a preseason game. Didn't really work out too well for him. Although Wilson looked great, and he loved throwing to Corey Davis. So I keep falling more and more and more in love with Corey Davis. It seems like the hype might get a bit out of control Moore still not back at practice yet with his quad injury. But I just think that the steal here on this team, depending on how late Davis goes, it's Davis. If not, it's Jamison Crowder, who's just going to be starting and on the field for as long as his hamstrings can hold up. And just no one wants him this year. It's really bizarre. So I think as like you can basically take him in the last round. He's going undrafted in a lot of leagues because the Moore hype got so big. But we know that he's going to end up seeing the field. So don't worry too much about Jamison Crowder as a bench player. He doesn't have a ton of upside, but he is probably like a plug and play for you if your team is weak at wide receiver. He's someone who's going to get some targets. Tevin Coleman started over Michael Carter. I think that is important to note as the Carter buzz continues to drop down. I moved him a bit down, moved up Coleman in my rankings just a little bit. Not really in love. I'd rather have Carter, I think, long-term throughout the course of the year, but initially he's probably just not playable. And Jared Davis is out through week 6 on the defensive side of the ball. So that's their 2 best pass rushers going down in the course of a week. This defense is going to be awful. That actually makes me like Crowder, Davis, Crowder, Corey Davis, and Zach Wilson a little bit more because they're just going to be playing catch up the entire time. If they're going to win games, they're going to have to score like 40 points. So Chuck City for Zach Wilson, kind of an underrated part of the rookie class right now in terms of fantasy. He's just going way later than everyone else who's getting the buzz. Like he's going ahead of Mac Jones, who's not currently starting, but he's going behind Fields, who's probably not going to start week 1. Lance, who might not start week 1, and Trevor Lawrence. I think he's objectively worse than those guys, but fantasy-wise, if he runs more at the NFL level, he could be a pretty good fantasy asset. That's all I'm going to throw out there. And he's going towards the very back end. Even in 2 quarterback leagues, he's going super late. So that could be a target for you. Last thing, the Cleveland Browns. Donovan People-Jones is likely to be the wide receiver 3 on this team with Landry and with Beckham. So you'll probably see Peoples and Beckham on the outside, Landry on the inside. But if he can continue to get reps, we've just seen his downfield presence, and if Beckham's back, that commands so much attention. You know you have to stack the box against the Browns to shut down Chubb or at least have a spy on Kareem Hunt out of the backfield that it's maybe more of a DraftKings idea for Peoples-Jones because he's going to continue to be cheap every single week. But if he's playing like 70, 75% of the stats, he's going to have some snaps. He's going to have some high valuable targets down the field, a very high ADOT for Donovan Peoples-Jones. And he's just moved ahead of Rashad Higgins and Kaderil Hodge in that offense. So just keep an eye on him more from a daily perspective or a player prop yardage perspective, game by game, week 1, week 2, week 3. You probably don't need him unless you're playing like a 25 round league and you have like a 20-person bench or something like that. But that's just a situation to keep an eye on. That was the quick update. Check the rankings in the description, smash the like, watch the other shows, and subscribe to Mayo Media Network and the Pat Mayo Experience audio podcast. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!